Welcome again to my latest attempt to fuse together an entire Dark Trilogy, with 3 of the best titles from the last couple decades, all coming together into a single Archipelago Randomizer playthrough. However, I should open up this video by apologizing for the last time I tried this on the channel, replacing Dark Souls 2 in that run with Kingdom Hearts 2, which still made this a trilogy, but of games that I actually enjoy playing, instead of throwing DS2 into the playthrough haphazardly for completionist's sake. Clearly, I disappointed several of you who'd hoped to actually see all 3 Dark Souls games tackled in a single randomizer clusterfuck. So I promise that this time I have double-checked the titles of each game we're looking to randomize today, and I can guarantee that Kingdom Hearts 2, while a fantastic randomizer, is not part of today's fun, and instead we have a proper Dark Trilogy on our hands. In that case, howdy, I'm Prakuza, and welcome to DevBox, where today the only thing I'm testing is my, and my viewers' patience as we head through a triple Archipelago Randomizer. Alright, we're starting out in Dark Souls 1 again. This time, however, we won't be picking the Thief or Master Key to start this run, since the randomizer doesn't actually take starting with the Master Key into account for the pathing it has decided throughout the game. So, to keep this run a bit cleaner, we're going to start as the Deprived, and we'll have to make our way through the Taurus Demon before we can start moving more freely through the first part of the game. But before that, we'll need to get through the tutorial boss. So, who's replaced the Asylum Demon? Looks like we've got Nito. Neat. For some reason, his little posse of skeletons didn't spawn into the arena with him. I know the enemy randomizer normally brings them into the fight, and in previous runs, I've also seen the Copper Demon show up here with both dogs. So I'm really not sure why the game went so easy on me in this run. Regardless, Nito on his own is pretty easy, and this arena gives us ample room to get out of the way of his miasma, which is kind of the determining factor on how difficult he'll be. Which means this is a first try kill for us once we get our starting equipment. Once we're in Lordran proper, we can start looking for our 5 keys that we'll need to finish the game. That would be the Lord Vessel and 4 Lord Souls, normally found in Enerlando and then at the end of each endgame dungeon respectively. For now though, after we do some early checks in New Londo and the Graveyard, we've only got one way to go for progress, and that is to Undead Burg. Picking up an early Moonlight Greatsword is a sick find on our way into the Burg, and I almost debate running that for fun. However, I have a bit of a plan for how to theme all 3 builds across this trilogy, so that'll be getting ignored for now, unfortunately. Someday, my love, I swear it. We otherwise run into a bit of trouble on the way to the Taurus Demon, but it's nothing like getting pounded by Dragon Ass from the last run. But I will say that this specific door is a bottleneck that really stops me for quite a while. Once we do get into the boss arena, however, we find that the Taurus Demon has been replaced by the Bell Gargoyles. Well, this is a rough arena to fight 2 enemies in. The width of the bridge doesn't really allow for quality multi-directional dodging, and that's without considering DS1's terrible 4-way lock-on dodge. We also can't get them to come up to the ladder area on top, because unlike the Taurus Demon, the gargoyles don't have an animation for that. Although I may not have tested thoroughly enough for that in order to confirm this to be the case with full confidence. Otherwise, that might have been the way to go, and I absolutely should have climbed that ladder. For now though, it only takes a few attempts to get through them, but with some black firebombs we had grabbed as a starting gift, helping us blast the gargoyles down, we can get the win we need and start exploring the rest of the early game more freely. After the boss, we run into Seath on the bridge, who blocks our way entirely, and can really mess us up if we try to fight him now. This is the unkillable one at the start of the Duke's Archives, by the way, and he's replaced the Hellkite Drake. The randomizer does let us kill him here though, but he's a bit too beefy to take him down at the moment with only a unupgraded club. As we start to explore further, we pick up the first Cinders of a Lord for DS3, replacing the Red Tearstone Ring. Hell yeah, that's an epic find this early on. It's one of the 4 keys we'll need to finish DS3. We'll go over that more clearly once we've gotten to that game. For those wondering how the hell we got here this early, by the way, it turns out the elevator between Darkroot Basin and the Valley of the Drakes works from both directions, meaning that Lower Undead Burg and the Depths are optional even without the Master Key. The only difference being that we still have to kill Taurus Demon in order to make it this far, considering that our basement key was replaced with cheese? Man, I really don't know what is in the second game's item pool. That's weird. This is going to be our only way into Blighttown as we head for more progress. Next up, we go fight the gargoyles and find that they've been replaced by Super Smo. Neat. After having fought the gargoyles already on the bridge, this fight is practically free in comparison. Although the path here isn't. The giant pile of hollows has been replaced by all of the biggest, strongest, worst enemies possible. Good luck getting to Logic early enough to get gifted the Sunlight Medal for freeing him. For Super Smo, however, as long as he doesn't scoop me off the ledge, the arena is plenty wide enough for him to really not be a problem. Speaking of free, the Moonlight Butterfly is replaced by Sif, who jumps to her death. Get fucking wrecked. And that's a second Cinders of the Lord on the Knight Armor in Darkroot Basin. Well, shit, looks like we'll be getting TS3 finished in record time. Wish I could find a Lord Soul or even the Lord Vessel at this same rate. Now that we've mostly explored Darkroot Basin and Garden, we can head down to Blighttown and continue on our any % path. While in Blighttown, we do manage to get a Firekeeper Soul. Sick. And we also find some lesser Tauros demons to kill, and this one is kind enough to drop us the Demon's Great Axe. Very nice. As for the boss, Quelaag is replaced by the Moonlight Butterfly. Honestly, another free fight. Stay directly under it for most of the fight, and its attacks are pretty easy to dodge. Then hammer away with that club of ours whenever the boss drops down into melee range. We can also hit the wings while we're down below it too, if we're looking to get this fight over with even quicker. Immediately after Quelaag, we go for Ceaseless, who is replaced by Bed of Chaos. Very easy fight in the randomizer, simply slap the 2 roots and then one-shot the boss. I really like this version of Bed of Chaos over its normal fight, that's for sure. While we're here, we also find the 3rd Cinders of a Lord, on the robes in front of the Ceaseless Discharge. DS1 is really showing DS3 some love. Can't believe 3 of the 4 Cinders have been in this game, already this easy to find. And that's the final Cinders of a Lord in the Demon Ruins. Well, DS3 is in go mode, and I haven't even started playing it yet. We'll get some randomizer goodness out of that game, but damn, this is a baby seed. In that case, since this clearly isn't going to be a seed that hard railroads or BKs me, let's move on to the second game now that we've got Sen's Fortress access, which will quickly mean full access to everywhere in Lordran. So if we stay here, we might never wind up leaving. Alright, time for some Dark Souls 2 action. This isn't Dark Souls 2. This is classic PS2 dungeon crawler Dark Cloud 2. Well, 2 out of 3 words were right in the title. We're at least getting closer to the right one now. I'm sure I'll get this done correctly in the future. The best part of this joke is that it only works if you're from North America. European and Japanese viewers are going to be like, it's called Dark Chronicle. There's no 2 in it. Anyway, let's get into how the Archipelago Randomizer works for Dark Cloud 2. And I'll be straight with you, it doesn't really work. Still, the mod creator, Arson Assassin, is the same modder currently putting together the Dark Souls Remastered Archipelago plugin, so there actually is a tentative connection between these games, at least through the modding community. Also, I'm fully aware that plenty of folks have already skipped over to where the video gets back to Dark Souls content, or clicked off the video entirely. So, if you're still hearing me now, then this video is for you specifically, and you're awesome. So, as we jump into Dark Cloud 2, there are some oddities about the randomizer to talk about. But that doesn't start until we get all the way through the opening and can start exploring the sewers. Once we're here, things start to get weird. First, because I've randomized items and enemies, heading through dungeons during the early game is a bit of a clusterfuck, and the randomized RNG can straight up stop me completely in my tracks. This is because the randomizer will grab enemies from anywhere in the game, and at a certain point, they'll have extremely high defenses and can't be beaten with a starting weapon. Guess a Battle Wrench only run in the future is out of the question in that case. But the point is that there's a good chance that the enemies that are randomized into each area might be immune to my wrench, and therefore I can't kill them. This wouldn't be a huge problem for progress if it wasn't for the fact that getting through each individual floor of the dungeon requires killing an enemy that is holding the gate key that allows me to continue through to the next floor. So if the randomizer spawns in an unkillable enemy, and then the game decides to assign the gate key to that enemy, then we'll have no way of moving forward. Mostly. See, there is actually one option for us as we run into these types of enemies, where we can pick up the throwable objects found in each area and use those to deal damage. Similarly, we can hold items that can hurt late game enemies even if our weapons can't. But both of those options come as a limited resource. So if I fail to guess correctly, then I'll need to restart the level and try again, either hoping that the gate key will spawn on an enemy that I can actually kill, or that I'll get lucky and use all the throwables to get it from one of the unkillable enemies. Anyway, we try this out for a while, but I start to notice that I don't appear to have received anything that I should have gotten from DS1, and I'm not sure if anything I'm sending is actually going out to the other games. So, let's hold off on this one for a second and head back to the actual Souls series by jumping into Dark Souls 3 and see what we can get there. Alright, time to head through Dark Souls 3, and this one has a much more fleshed out randomization system than the DS1 Archipelago, which means we get the fun of randomizing our starting classes, and our shops will also be randomized when we get there. This means we get to start with what I thought would be an Uchigatana, but turns out to be a Chaos Blade. Well damn, off to a good start. For now though, we need to get through our first fight. I'm certainly hoping that this isn't nearly as cursed as the last attempt through this, where I had been forced to fight the champion Gravetender right off the bat. Is this karma? Is this karma for still pulling the DS2 swap? Because if so, then worth it! Even if this guy is a complete bitch to fight this early, scaled or no. Yeah, this takes a few tries, but it's nothing I can't manage. Well, at least we know it can't get any worse than this. Although once again, the coiled sword isn't where it should be, and this time we need to pick it up from the Shrine Handmaiden since she's selling it. We also kill the Master Replacement and make our way quickly through to the High Wall of Lothric. At this point, I also have some internet issues, my internet sucks, and connecting to the Archipelago server becomes a bit of a problem. So if you see the tracker in the bottom right start to freak out, yeah, that's my internet messing up. However, as long as I can quickly connect for even a second, it'll send any checks over to the server. In that case, it's really not that big of a deal for a solo Archie run like this. If I was playing with friends, this might be a bit of a problem, but not in this setting. As we head through the High Wall of Lothric, DS3 starts to prove itself as the much more balanced randomizer, mostly because it doesn't come with some shit like the dragon legs or vagrants. So it's a very by-the-numbers trek through the first area, a handful of deaths included. Then we get to Vort, who is replaced by Lothric and Lorien. I'd prepare for a tough bout here, but their AI completely bugs out and gives me a free kill. A little disappointing, but honestly, I'll take it. Not a huge fan of these teleporting bastards anyway. Now, it's only after heading into Undead Settlement that I realized that DS1 had actually sent me all 4 Cinders of a Lord I need. I knew I had some, but finding all 4 in DS1 alone was kind of a shock, so, let's go check out that final boss, shall we? And it's Nameless King. Not great. Especially since the scaling might technically make him a little stronger than normal, since he's replacing Soul of Cinder. Well, we give it a few honest tries, but I'm not looking to finish this off quite yet anyway. In that case, let's spend some time exploring the rest of the world, since we got access to Undead Settlement, and therefore the Road of Sacrifices and Farron Keep as well. I might also want better heals and gear to fight Nameless properly, so coming back here later is a better idea regardless. This then brings us to the Curse-Rotten Greatwood fight, who is replaced by Dragonslayer armor. He gets a nasty kill on me right as I'm about to finish the first attempt, but a quick reset is all it takes to get my Chaos Blade, chipping him faster than it chips me. One of the most interesting parts of this fight in the randomizer, however, is the phase transition. It's so neat that it always feels like he's actually destroying the ground beneath our feet, even when it isn't the original boss's butt slam causing the destruction. Last time, this was the old Demon King, and it still felt very organic. Our next big find is in the Road of Sacrifices, where we pick up our second Undead Bone Shard. The first one was back in DS1. So now we have 6 flasks at +2, basically enough to get 2 full heals while embered. It's not wonderful, but more than enough to take on some of the upcoming bosses, and actually about as much as we need for Nameless King. The next boss is Crystal Sage, who is replaced by the Demon Princes. Hoo boy! That is a tough roll this early on. but at least they're kinda squishy since they spawned in this arena. On my first attempt, I killed the wrong one first, and getting a glowing sun exploding in my face takes me out pretty quick. My gameplay was also kinda sloppy in the first phase, so it's a struggle from start to finish. The rematch fixes both of these issues, as I make it all the way to the second phase without needing a heal, and recover with an ember. Then, fighting the easier version of the Demon Prince, we get through this on the second attempt. Really expected this to be a bigger problem than it was here. Honestly, kinda happy I made it through so fast. We really don't find any more consequential drops from here until the end of this session, so for now, let's rush through some bosses. First up is the Abyss Watchers, who are replaced by Vort. He's a bit beefier than he normally would be in his regular arena, and that's always a bit of a surprise in randomizer runs. However, we've upgraded our Chaos Blade to about +4 already, so that helps. After that, we can take on the Deacons, who are replaced by Champion Gravetender. After the last run, where this guy was in the Gundyr arena, I wasn't exactly excited to see him again. However, this goes totally fine. I kill the starting wolves really quickly, the giant wolf in the second phase doesn't really get in the way of me harassing the Gravetender, and I even managed to get some good parries off that open up the boss to get absolutely ripped apart by my Chaos Blade. First try victory. Can't even imagine why I had such a hard time with them last time. Oh right, it's because I couldn't upgrade. Then we get to Wolnir, who is replaced by Half-Light. I give this a couple solid tries, but this guy fucking sucks. Apparently, he's worse than Champion Gravetender, because after a handful of attempts, I have no luck taking this asshole down. Fuck this, maybe I should go for the end already. At least losing to Nameless is more fun than losing to Half-Light. And then Nameless beats on me for a solid 20 minutes. At this point, stuff really isn't working out for DS3, and I'm hoping that maybe getting to one of the other games might give me some much needed healing or strength to take on Nameless King a bit easier. In that case, we're going back to Dark Cloud 2, and as we head back, it becomes obvious that things aren't working here. We've picked up a handful of items across both DS1 and DS3 that should be going to Dark Cloud 2, like the cheese I mentioned earlier, but they aren't showing up. Mostly, at least. Some items do manage to make the transition, but when they load into the game, they either overstock my inventory until I can't back out of my menu, or they don't act as they should, and weapons that should make the rest of this run incredibly easy simply don't have any stats associated with them at all and don't work in any way. However, there are still some items in Dark Cloud 2 that have been going out towards the other games, like Estus Shards for Dark Souls 3. Considering how difficult it was to even get this running, the fact that Dark Cloud 2's Randomizer mod is still in very early development, I wasn't too surprised to see that it wasn't working out exactly how I'd hoped. I do still want to commend the mod creator though, because the parts of this that do work and the strangeness of rolling the dice against the randomized enemies and needing to find alternate ways to kill them, it's all super interesting. There are also certain aspects in the base game that can make this more manageable later on as we get further and further into the run. But still, some key items aren't loading correctly and I keep getting soft locked in my menu, so for now, I rush my way through the game without randomizing it and then release all of the items in Dark Cloud 2. Now we can finish the other randomizers properly. Well, with Dark Cloud 2 now releasing everything, it's time to commit to the Nameless King fight. Nothing to do now but Git Gud. Also, since Dark Cloud 2 released everything, I'm a little bit stronger now. I mean, I don't get any more Estus or Undead Bone Shards, but we got some souls and beef up our DS3 Monica. Yeah, that was the idea with these souls characters, by the way. The DS1 guy was supposed to be Max using hammers and stuff, while DS3 was Monica using swords. Their hair is also meant to match their Atlamelia stones. I would have gone more into it if the Dark Cloud 2 randomizer actually worked, but for now, no dice. Anyway, getting through Nameless is a bit of a slog and feels like it takes forever, but in real time, it's only about 20 minutes of attempts. Then, as with all things, we get it done, and Dark Souls 3 is ready to finish and give this run back over to DS1. Now, in Dark Souls 1, we still need to explore for a bit since it seems like everything I need has been native to DS1 this entire time. It's kinda crazy, both games have fully released, and these games have hundreds of checks between them. But somehow, after all of that, 3 of my 4 Lord Souls are still in DS1. Fortunately, Dark Cloud 2 did hand over the Lord Vessel, and DS3 gave me 1 Lord Soul. But still, considering that all 4 Souls of Cinder were early game pickups in DS1, that's kinda crazy for DS3 and Dark Cloud 2 to not have anything for us in DS1. First, we head back down into Lower Undeadburg because there are a few checks to be made down there, and we might also get lucky and unlock some more pathing. What we do manage to find is our second Lord Soul, however, in the room where Griggs is being held. Honestly, a lucky as hell find. Not too much else to talk about, so we continue by checking out Sen's Fortress since we opened it before leaving DS1 for Dark Cloud 2 way earlier in the run. No Lord Souls, but we do fight Iron Golem, who is replaced by Gaping Dragon. Not the perfect arena for this fight, and I need to eat some damage in order to get the final hits in, but it's not enough to stop us for long. Better than Manus, I'll tell you that much. Then we get to Anorlando, where we get the least cursed bridge possible. A giant rat and an undead dragon. That dragon might look like trouble at first glance, but it's really not that bad, considering that we can walk around it and wail on him from behind. Into the boss fight, we get ONS turning into 4 kings, thanks to our Demon's Great Axe, which, I'll be honest, wasn't really all that related to Max in the first place. We easily pass through this DPS check. Also, the smaller arena means they won't stay back and spam spells quite as often. It makes this fight quite a bit easier. The second boss is Quelaag. It goes fine for a second, but she manages to nail me with one of her big AoE explosions that I'd like to call bullshit on, but being mad won't make me any less dead. So instead, we come in for a second try and we make her more dead. Simple as that. Next up, we're heading back to Undead Parish for no real reason. Don't worry about it. And hey, while we're here, we happen to luck out, and one of the 2 remaining Lord Souls I need is right there. Definitely didn't have to hint for it, and probably never would have found it otherwise because it's sitting behind a group of enemies that kept pounding me into the dirt when I tried to fight the gargoyles earlier. Alright, and our final location to check is Painted World. Again, not that I knew ahead of time that this was our last set of checks. Totally didn't keep hinting for stuff, then removed the tracker on the bottom because it would otherwise reveal the hint for the next couple hours of footage. Absolutely not the case. And would you look at that, we've found the 4th Lord Soul. Again, completely organically, because I always check this specific item in Painted World and definitely wasn't going to skip this because it was so horrendous the last time I did the DS1 randomizer. I might actually want to take this place out of the pool for important items moving forward. It's complete hell in the randomizer. While we're here, this might be the single worst placement for the Hydra. Truly cursed to have to fight it here. But this time I do actually manage to kill it. Fucking somehow. That being said, gold content. I wouldn't change the ability to randomize the Hydra for the world. But holy shit, this is rough. And to get out of Painted World, we get to run past Stray Demon because there's no reason to fight him. Which means we can drop from the edge of the Painted World straight into Firelink Shrine and get ourselves ready to end this shit. As I kill Gwyn, replaced by Iron Golem, who is totally free, I'd like to leave with a few words on the state of these randomizers. I really want to commend the mod creators here. Everyone working on the Archipelago, as well as those making the supplemental mods that improve this setup, like the 5th Mat's Enemy Randomizer for DS1. These are some amazing mods y'all have put together, and I can't express how fun they are, even if they don't fully function properly at the moment. I mean, the Souls ones are certainly functioning and absolutely a treat for anyone looking to get that new Souls feeling out of their Dark Souls 1 through 3. Can't recommend that enough. But the Dark Cloud 2 one is also really interesting. I love the need for ingenuity in order to clear the dungeons, and the fact that each one delivers something to the other games. It's a solid installment for the Archipelago for now. And I've been testing to see if having it simply deliver items and not receive anything might work better. Not quite as cooperative as I'd like it to be, but still could be fun with multiple people. Or as a starting game for a solo Archie run like this. On the Souls side, I would love to see Shop Sanity come to DS1's Archie Rando, and the ability to randomize starting equipment. It's available in the current item randomizer on Nexus Mods, but being able to buy stuff normally and keep the starting classes doesn't have the same feeling as it does in DS3. Either way, definitely something to keep an eye out for, and I'll certainly be doing more randomizer content in the future because this stuff is too damn fun. And maybe watch out for the next one of these, because I might have finally spell-checked my Google searches and found the randomizer a handful of you have been screaming at me about. Hey, it's that time again, the end of the video, where I invite folks to come check out the Patreon. The link is in the description, and make good on the rewards for those currently pledged. Patreon members get early access to new content and their names written in the credits at the end of videos. And those who pledge in the top tiers get their names read out, like our Devbox designers, Genghis Braun. and our DevBox developers, Azul. Thanks for your support, and thanks for watching. So, I promise that this time, I have double-checked the titles of each game we're looking to randomize. Oh, God. Gonna have to get through that one. Because this is where I lie. I lie straight to their face. It's funny.